Once again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there tuning in. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Joining us on today's show from SEC Media Days, we got Parker Thune of OU Insider and Rivals and now on 3. Parker, how's it going, man?
Oh, doing great. I got a lot of affiliations these days, don't I?
It's kind of
crazy to keep track of them all.
Yeah, somebody who just keeps going back to grad school and just gets MSN, MSPH, MPH, DO, like all those things. So let's start with recruiting, Parker, because that's been a really interesting topic of discussion lately. What do you make of Oklahoma's recruiting efforts over the last few months?
Yeah, look, guys, I know the class right now as we sit here on, July 16th, is not where a lot of fans want it to be, and that's fair. You know, I think Oklahoma sits somewhere on the fringe of the top 25, depending on which service you follow and trust with recruiting rankings. But 15 commits, I think when you look at the bodies that they've got amongst that group, they've got some guys that project to be really strong college football players, even if they haven't quite gotten their due yet in terms of the stars, in terms of the ratings, what have you. I know you brought up the example of the Jandro brothers, John, two guys that I think are going to have a very successful career at the next level. Both of them are 3 stars right now. So what I encourage everybody is, if you're going to offer broad sweeping takes on the state of Oklahoma's recruiting class, do your homework, right? Watch the tape, study each of those guys individually, come to your own conclusions as to what type of football players they are. And if at the end of it all, you can say that each of these 15 guys is worth the scholarship at the University of Oklahoma, you can look at all 15 guys on tape, or even the majority of them, and conclude, yeah, I really like what this guy has the potential to be. Then you should be content with Oklahoma's class at that point. It shouldn't matter what the rankings say, what the ratings say. And so I'm also one that's taking a bit of a patient approach, because I understand that regardless of what Oklahoma's class looks like right now in July, that can change and will change depending on the results on the football field. Oklahoma could have the number 1 class in the nation right now, but if they don't win this fall, that doesn't matter, because that class is going to fall apart. And so I almost like the bit of a sleeper dynamic that's at play right now with Oklahoma in the 2026 cycle, where they're just sitting there right there on the fringe of the top 25. But I think when you look at what has the potential to break their way this fall if they win football games, man, Oklahoma, I don't know if it's going to wind up being a top 10 class, but I'm still quite confident that Oklahoma can push for one and be right there on the cusp of that territory.
Well, the stress of this class has been, and I've had to address this a couple of times, is that we ain't got no Oklahoma recruits. Like, nothing in state right now, and so fans are kind of curious. Parker, what does that even look like now? Can we expect Oklahoma to circle back on some of these guys? If they start winning, will those guys pick up the phone and say, hey, I'm thinking about Oklahoma again? Or do we have to send the hey big head text and hopefully they'll respond back to us? What does that look like for Oklahoma, even if they win, when it comes to going in state?
Oh, I mean, inevitably, it happens when you have a successful season in the fall. Guys will pick up the phone and call you. They will say, actually, I'm not entirely sure that I made the right decision in the summer. What do you guys got going on? Can I maybe swing through town and take a look, check things out, come for a game day visit, that type of thing. So there will be those proactive measures that are taken by certain recruits if Oklahoma goes and has success. But also, they don't necessarily have to be the ones to initiate the contact. If you, say, roll out of Dallas after the Cotton Bowl at 6-0, at that point, you will be able to get on the horn with pretty much any recruit that you've developed a previous relationship with, and a lot of recruits that maybe you haven't developed any relationship with yet, and you'll be able to stand a strong chance at flipping them, because there's going to be legit steam behind Oklahoma football at that point. By the way, are you guys baseball bat style when it comes to holding the stick, Mike, or you hold it like a golf club?
I'm golf club.
Yeah, me too.
I'm golf club stack. Yeah, I got a thumb up. Right up there at the middle.
Thumb up. Yep.
I think I'm lacrosse. This is my old lacrosse handle.
Really?
Side. Like, I was a goalie when I played lacrosse, and so you had to be able to have that.
There you go.
Microphone. Move
Jay was
around.
switching back and forth between a couple of grips. I couldn't quite figure it out.
Yeah.
I
keep the thumb up, but I move it to the side sometimes. So I've learned that with the way that I slice on my swing, that I have to move my thumb in or out when I feel a little uncomfortable. That helps me get the ball straight. So yeah, I keep that thumb up though.
Jay's way more detailed at golf than I am. If I hit it straight, it's just by luck, not because I've done anything with my grip. But Parker, as we look at the 2026 class, who's one of your favorite players in this cycle that they've so far gotten a commitment from?
I love that tight end duo, man. Okay. Ryder Mix, Tyler Ruxer, those two. And I know I'm kind of cheating because I went with a pair of them there, but those two guys, I think, have immense potential in Ben Arbuckle's offense, assuming Arbuckle's here in the long term, which in today's day and age, you always got to reckon with the possibility that, your young, bright, up-and-coming offensive coordinator has a ton of success. He's gone in a year or two. But assuming Arbuckle is around for the long term, I think the possibilities as to the manners in which you can deploy Ryder Mix and Tyler Ruxer in the offense is virtually limitless because they're do-it-all guys. They're do-everything guys. They're not the types of tight ends that you have to shoehorn into one specific role because all they are is blockers or they're just a couple of field stretchers. No, these guys are well-rounded at the position. They have a very comprehensive skill set, and they're dudes that you can line up pretty much anywhere on the field. They're going to present a matchup nightmare for the opposition in coverage, and they're more than willing and more than capable to get down in the trenches and do the dirty work of blocking. So love what Oklahoma and Joe John Finley picked up in Ryder Mix and Tyler Ruxer. It's a really good haul for Oklahoma at that spot in 2026.
Speaking of tight end, we know that this year, things are a little squirrely, I guess is probably the best term that we can use for tight end. We're trying to understand it.
Sure.
Well, the latest roster dropped, and I took a gander at one player that I've been kind of quietly hyping up, Trinae Washington. He's coming in at about 240-something pounds as a true freshman. He probably is looking that big, but he looked big at Carl Albert at Midwest City. How do you feel about him trying to find his way on the field in this kind of smorgasbord of tight ends?
I've never had the expectation that it'll happen for Trinae Washington just because he is a true freshman, and that's a hard position to get on the field as a true freshman, one of the more difficult ones that there is, and Oklahoma has a lot of experienced depth at that position. Now, not all of it is P4 experience, and I think that's part of the reason why so many folks are apprehensive about the tight end position at Oklahoma in 2025 is because you have a bunch of guys that have played football, but in Carson Kent, you had a guy that was a stud at the G5 level. You have a guy in Will Huggins who most recently appeared at the D2 level with Pittsburgh State. And then you have some incumbents, you have some returners and guys like Caden Helms and Cade McIntyre that, they offer a lot of promise, were highly coveted as recruits, but they haven't really seen it come together for them yet at Oklahoma. So I have no idea how that hierarchy is going to shake out at that position. From everything I heard in spring, Helms is kind of the most well-rounded guy at that spot as of right now. But it must be acknowledged, and it's a very obvious assertion and the correct one. Jaren Kanak is the best athlete by far out of anybody in that group. So assuming his adjustment process continues to go pretty seamlessly, you have to expect that regardless of who the nominal starter is, you're going to see a lot of Jaren Kanak in Ben Arbuckle's offense in 2025.
I mean, you need to. You got to get that guy the ball in space somewhere and just let him run and then run over guys because he's got so much experience having done that and having success at that at the high school level. Now you just got to transition it, let him get up to speed really quickly at the collegiate level. Offensive line's another area where we need a big bounce back season from the Oklahoma Sooners. I think it's still a position a bit in flux, even though we've got some projections. We think we know who's going to be starting. Is there a spot maybe where there might be a big-time position battle in fall camp that's going to decide some things?
I'll be interested to see what happens at left guard.
Okay.
Because as I look at that offensive line group right now, I think I know, and none of us know for certain, but I think I know who the starters are going to be at 4 of the 5 spots. Jake Sexton, you'd presume, is going to be your starting left tackle. Derek Simmons is going to be your starting right tackle. Fabechi Wiwu going to reprise his role as the starting right guard. The vibes I've been getting is that the Sooners have brought Jake Michaela in with the expectation that he is going to be the starting center, which I'll be interested to see how that shakes out in fall camp because Troy Everett has played some good football for Oklahoma, and he's very well respected as a leader amongst that offense and across the entire team. But the expectation from within, per my understanding, is that they're bringing Jake Michaela in to be the starting center. So you have that, but left guard is where things get really, really interesting because Heath Ozida played that position last year, didn't break camp as the starter, but due to the wave of injuries, wound up playing a lot at that spot throughout the season. But Eddie Pierre-Louis You know, there's the Eddie Pierre-Louis factor.
Yeah.
Rising sophomore, he played a little bit, not a ton, as a true freshman. I think most everyone associated with the team in any capacity would acknowledge that Eddie Pierre-Louis' time is coming, and it's probably coming pretty soon. Does that have to come at the expense of a guy like Heath Ozida? Well, if it's 2025 that Eddie Pierre-Louis is destined to break into the starting lineup, yeah, it probably does. Yeah. So I think there's a very intriguing battle shaping up at left guard between Ozida and Pierre-Louis, certainly, but also, you know, what do you do with a guy like Jake Taylor, who's played inside and played outside during his career at Oklahoma? You maybe slide him inside and see if he can give you something in terms of a competitive push for those other guys at left guard. Ryan Foje, you know, is he maybe a dude that can make some noise? Because the word from within during spring was he's every bit as ready as Michael Fasusi is. So, man, it feels like Oklahoma, and it feels weird to say right now because last we saw this unit, it was a wreck. It was an abomination. But they look like they're in a really good spot right now on the offensive line as far as talent and depth.
Speaking of the offensive line, and I'll close out with this, health-wise, we know that Logan Howland, we know that Heath Ozida, you've had guys, Jake Taylor, deal with injuries, have surgeries. How healthy have you heard they are as we prepare for fall camp?
Man, so here's the deal as far as the whole injury component of the conversation is concerned. There's absolutely no way Oklahoma's going to have to deal with anything remotely resembling what they dealt with last year.
Nope.
Now, the one concern in spring was Eli Bowen. You know, I think it was the first week of spring ball.
Yes.
He got dinged up, suffered an ankle injury. He was in a boot for quite a while. He's out of that boot now. Everything looks good for him going into fall camp, so there's no reason he shouldn't be at 100%. Javonnie Gibson and Jayden Gibson, I think, are the two guys that most everybody at this point in time are most curious about as to how they're progressing in their rehabs from their respective injuries. I don't know whether they're going to be ready for week one. I think if you can have Javonnie in particular ready for week 2 against Michigan, that's a great sign because that's a game you have to win, right? Like, as far as the SEC race is concerned, maybe it's inconsequential because it's not a conference game, but that has the potential to really set the tone for the season ahead at Oklahoma. So you'd like to be all hands on deck as much so as it is possible heading into that Michigan game, and I think that's realistic right now for Javonnie Gibson. I think it's very realistic that he could be ready for week 2 against Michigan.
Javonnie, Jayden, so many guys we're going to be keeping our eyes on as we get close to the start of the regular season. Make sure you go subscribe to OU Insider's YouTube channel over there. Check out their live show that he and Brandon Drum do on a weekly basis, covering all things recruiting in Oklahoma football. Also go listen to Parker on KREF in Norman, Monday through Friday from noon to 3 over there. Also doing a great recruiting show with Locked On SMU's new host, Grayson, right?
Grayson Singleton,
yeah,
that's
go
right.
Check that recruiting show out as well. Also, go check out OU Insider. Subscribe over there. Be a part of the community that they're building at the OU Insider, now part of Rivals and On3, that gets you all of the recruiting info that you could ever want as we're in recruiting season. Go check that out over at OU Insider. Parker, always a pleasure to have you on the show, man. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, fellas.